Modern Christian Dads, Season 2. We're about to explode. Just dudes talking news, sports, and God.
What's up, guys? Welcome into the Modern Christian Dads podcast. My name is Jeremiah Johnson. Alongside the Modern Christian Dads, we are dudes talking news, sports, and God. So whether you're listening to us live on Facebook right now or you listen to the podcast, it's available on any platform. We're guys that exist to bring you encouragement and entertain you a little bit here and there throughout the week. So what's up, guys? Let's welcome in the Modern Christian Dads. We got Greg Walden over there today.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
A veteran of the armed forces.
Yes.
Celebrated Memorial Day. So tell us about that a little bit. You were in the Army.
Yep. I was in the Army from 88 to 94.
Awesome. What was happening then?
Oh,
Desert Storm?
Yeah, Desert Storm. Yep. Desert Storm. The first.
George Bush?
Yeah, George Bush the first.
Okay.
Yep. Actually saw him in a motorcade at Fort Campbell. That's pretty cool.
Best memory of being in the Army?
Oh, goodness. Best memory.
Got a lot of worst ones, probably.
There's a lot of worse ones.
Yeah.
Oh, but the best memory was actually when I got saved. I got saved while I was in the Army.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. Wow. You have to tell us your testimony sometime about that.
Oh, definitely.
Real life stories, Grace Point Daily. That's another good podcast.
Yeah.
Share that on. So anyway, then we have Mr. Greg Walden.
Greg Krawick.
Greg Krawick. I
Seriously?
Said Greg Walden. Seriously, I'm sorry. You guys don't know how many Gregs I have in my life. I say that all the time. When I meet someone new, I'm like, let me guess, your name is Greg. Or what's the other one? Kelly.
Kelly.
Greg.
There's a lot of
Lots of
Kellys
Gregs.
too, yeah.
Lots of Kellys. And speaking of that, Kelly Stevens.
Yeah.
On the injured reserve now, officially.
Yeah.
IR.
I hear it was a figure skating accident. No. I'm just
Hip. What is it? Hip. Poor Kelly was working for the good old R9 school district and he slipped, fell. You got the story. I didn't
he
get the
said
story.
he hyperextended his leg and hip. So
Okay.
I don't know if he's roller skating there.
I didn't know if he's on the way to another hair appointment.
So because he's seriously injured, we can't make fun of him too bad here today.
No,
on
not
Modern
too
Christian
bad.
Dads podcast.
Okay, we'll let you alone.
Anyway, we're dudes talking news, sports, and God. So we talk this all the time. We hope you guys like, share, and subscribe to the Modern Christian Dads podcast. Make sure if you're listening on Facebook Live, give us your comments, give us your reactions throughout the show. You can always email us at modernchristiandads@gmail.com. Send us direct message on Facebook, all those kinds of good things. So anyway, we're getting back into the groove after life after Corona, although we've stayed pretty consistent, and we thank you that our fan base has stayed consistent as well. I've seen that in our numbers. We appreciate that very, very much. So let's just go ahead and dive right into it, guys. Okay, speaking of sports, this last weekend, they had what was called the Match. Did you guys aware of the Match? Do you know what that is?
No.
Okay, so Tiger Woods, Peyton Manning, Phil Mickelson, and Tom Brady played a match together.
A round of golf.
A round of golf. It was for a charity event, but it was the most watched golf event in cable history. So anyway, here's what happened here. They had really, really good numbers. The match drew an average of 5.8 million viewers, rivaling recorded The Last Dance, which was the Michael Jordan documentary that came out. So anyway, it was just kind of speaking to, or their stat was saying more people tuned in to watch Tiger Woods, Phil Mickelson, Peyton Manning, and Tom Brady play for charity than have ever watched an early round cable broadcast of a major. So basically what they're saying is that people are craving sports right now, so much so that many people would watch
Golf.
Brady, Mickelson,
Now,
Tiger, and Manning.
Are you a golf guy? I mean,
I used to be when I
Really?
played for free.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. That's how about
My-
you? No, I'm not. I used to be a caddy. It was like one of my first jobs as a young teenager. I was a caddy at a local golf course. I used to love caddying for the tournaments because if your guy won, you got paid big time.
Oh, okay.
That was a nice thing about caddying.
Well, I tried golf back in 2005 on a business trip to Georgia. And after I was done, the guy that ran the course handed me some grass seeds and told me to go plant. Because I hit more clumps of dirt farther than I did the ball.
Yeah, so my story is that when I was a worship pastor in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, there was a guy who owned a very nice Christian golf course. I can't remember the name of it. Otherwise, I'd give him a shout out. But anyway, on Mondays, if you were a pastor and you had a little minister's card, you could play golf for free. So I literally played golf every week. And then as well, right next to the church, we had a 9-hole business executive course, if you will. And so I'd play that maybe every other week, and my skills were decent, okay, in a sense.
Getting better, yeah.
And then I moved away to be a lead pastor in Utah, and I had to start paying for golf. And I was like, well, I'm done with that sport.
No longer a
And
golfer.
that is a true story. Golf is expensive.
It's very expensive.
I mean, we talk about, I bought a $1,000 mountain bike, but I mean, man, you can, what you spend on clubs,
well, in a
green
round,
fees
just
on a
playing
round.
a round of golf, like $40, $50 or whatever for a
Yeah,
round. So,
and then if you do it a lot, and then what I found frustrating was I kind of got to the point where I was like, I'm about as good as I can get without golfing more.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what I mean? You kind of hit that point where like, well, I play once a week, but if I want to get better, I'm gonna have to play more chip and putt, and it's hard to as a pastor when you're kind of busy throughout the week.
Yeah.
Is when you do have that one day off to tell your wife and kids like, hey, I'm gonna go golf all day. See you later.
yeah, right. Yeah, doesn't usually
So
work
anyway,
out too
but
well.
I can see how it's a very addicting sport. I personally like it myself. I just chose to surrender that because of time and money.
Do you ever own clubs and everything, or did you?
Yeah, I did have clubs, but they were just like
like-
$200 Target clubs
Okay.
or something like that. They did the job though. So anyway, all right. So good job, Tiger. The only thing I saw funny part of it was I guess Tom Brady birdied on a hole and he ripped his pants while he swung.
yeah.
So must have been wearing the tight pants, stretch pants, like Kelly Stevens wears a lot.
yeah, yeah. He knows the
Okay,
feeling.
here's a fun one for you. Next up is 10. I found this article, 10 items that are worth splurging on and 10 items that are not. So before we get into that, let's get your opinion if you have some right off the top of your head that you can think of. Items that are worth spending a lot of money on
Oh goodness.
to the modern Christian dads.
Steaks.
I was just going to say that
Yeah.
meat.
Yeah.
You cannot
Yeah.
buy cheap meat and make it
No,
taste good.
I
No.
agree.
It's gotta
You
be
got to
good.
spend good money on meat.
And like I said a couple episodes ago, you got to know how to cook it because you're just wasting your money
Yep.
if you don't know how to cook it. Don't even buy it because you're just going to
Mountain biking, you can't buy a cheap Walmart
That's
mountain bike.
true. I agree with that. Yeah, that's
Gotta
for
buy
sure.
the good stuff here, man.
Okay. Anything else that you should spend money on? I think you do get what you pay for, right?
Yeah.
So before I get into the list, how about things that are a waste of money? Things you should not splurge money on that are a complete waste of money. Before I get to the list, I'm going to see if you guys get any of these.
Oh goodness.
My wife? No, just kidding.
I guess timeshares. Especially this year.
Timeshares. There you go. Okay.
I just had an idea of that's a good one. I just had an idea of something you should spend good money or money on is tools. That's
yeah.
one thing that I will say.
Yes.
Tools are very important. My father-in-law is a perfect example of this. He always bought the best tools, and you know what? He never had any of them break.
Yeah.
What's
You
your
know-
favorite brand of tools?
Snap-on.
Snap-on, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And in the machining world, it's Starrett. So
I'm still going to go to Harbor Freight. Just
yeah.
love that cheap
Be a
Harbor Freight
return
tools.
customer there too.
Exactly.
I broke a wrench.
Okay, so this article was 10 items that are worth splurging on and 10 that are not. So the first one, I'm going to give five from each, and I might agree or disagree. But the first one was mattresses. How about mattresses? Splurging on a mattress?
Yeah. See, now I've heard of people they spend thousands, like on a Sleep Number, one of those types of
Yes.
things. And I think the mattress we have is kind of a memory foam deal. We spent like I don't know. It was less than $1,000, but it was more than I wanted to. But
Yeah, I've seen the purple. Have you seen the purple mattress? That's the one that gets me a little bit excited.
I have heard of that.
It's supposed to be like space net designed or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, mattresses have an average lifespan of 8 years. The longevity can vary depending on the type of mattress you've purchased.
Yeah.
Over time, mattresses lose support as they begin to sag and develop lumps. They also collect allergens such as dust mites, which can exacerbate asthma and respiratory systems.
Yeah.
So.
And they also gain weight too because as you sweat and it absorbs that sweat and over time.
And what did they say? Like pillows,
Yeah.
like after a year, there's pretty much all like dead skin in your pillow. It's not really like. You ever heard that before? Because there's so much.
pillow turns to a zombie.
no, but I'm going to think of that tonight
Yeah,
when I
well,
go
think
to bed.
about that. You're laying on it all.
Because
Yeah.
one of the pillows that I have is an actual down pillow that my grandma made like probably 25 years ago, feather pillow
Oh,
that she
yeah.
made, and I still sleep on that now. So it's
right.
probably
Tina McKenzie's diving in.
Sorry,
Thank
my
you for diving
skin.
in, Tina McKenzie. She mentioned washer and dryer, refrigerator.
Yeah.
I'm assuming to splurge money on there. Okay, the next one, again, I agree with it, was electric toothbrushes.
Yeah.
Pastor Greg can speak to this.
I have one of those,
Okay.
and I will Agree. Yeah.
Okay. 2014 study conducted by the Cochrane Oral Health Group found that people who use electric toothbrushes experienced a 21% reduction in plaque after 3 months. They also had an 11% reduction in gum inflammation, aka the gingivitis.
Well, let me just.
Are you an electric toothbrush guy there?
I use a 97-cent toothbrush cheapie from the dollar store.
You got the ooh button there?
Oh, yeah, I do. You deserve that.
It works.
Okay, say it there.
What I was going to say is, since I've been using my electric toothbrush for the last 5 years, I have not gone to the dentist because I haven't felt like I needed to. Because I can tell that there's no plaque on my teeth because of that thing. Now you have to do like what it says you need to do. Like, it's got a timer on it, and you're feeling like you're standing there doing this thing forever. But it is worth it. I will say that. Yep.
2 minutes of a good electric toothbrush. There's nothing like it. This one I disagree with. That they said you should splurge money on. This one is cars. Okay, I disagree with that one.
I've had a lot of those, so yeah. Well, I would say in
terms of the investment value, right? Depreciating value.
Depreciating.
You got the.
Yeah, depreciating value.
Your Honda Accord is not appreciating in value right now.
No, it's not, and that's why I've been buying really good tools lately.
Well, I never buy new. I never buy a new vehicle. I always buy one that's about 3 years old, and I always buy like my F-150 is the basic XLT. It's not the Raptor or the Lariat or anything like that. It's just basic.
And I'll say I bought a brand new diesel pickup truck one time, brand new. And I sold it for 2 years later, almost to the exact date that I bought it, for $20,000 less than I paid for it. $20,000. Yep.
I say don't splurge unless it's a Tesla. Then go ahead and splurge on that. Okay, sneakers and laptops were also on things you should splurge on. I mean, I do believe in splurging on a MacBook Pro. That'll last you a long time.
Yes.
Okay, not worth splurging on. Let's go to a couple from their list there. One was warranties. I say amen to that.
Amen.
No warranties here. Nope.
My great story, warranty versus guarantee. I bought tires one time. They had a warranty. Then I took them back 10,000 miles later, like, oh, you need new tires. I'm like, well, wait a second. Like, I just bought these tires. Well, you need a new pair. I don't know what else to tell you, sir. You new pair. Yeah. I was like, well, isn't there a warranty on that? He's like, oh, you're exactly right, sir. Yep, we'll get you. And I paid like $500. What did I just say? Well, we can put a new pair on there for $425 with the warranty. I was like, wait, what is it? It's like, sir, it's a warranty. It's not a guarantee. But
Yeah, I learned that with my. I bought a '97 Saturn way back, back in the '90s, and it was like 2 years old. It had a 75,000 mile warranty on it, so I got it. I bought the car, and it had like it had like 50,000. I mean, it had good 20,000 miles left on it. Well, it was burning oil I put in a quart of oil every 3,000 miles on the thing. So I took it back to Saturn, and I'm like, sorry, it's not covered. I'm like, this thing's burning the oil like crazy.
Yeah. Okay. They said on here, name brand products. When you're shopping at the market, it's tempting to opt for name brand food, beauty, and pharmacy products just because you're familiar with a specific shampoo or tissue brand doesn't make these items higher quality than the store brand alternative. Yeah. I think that varies a little bit on some products.
I think it does too.
Suave shampoo works great.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's some things like the knockoff stuff I won't buy because it's just not good. Like as far as food goes.
Exactly. Yeah, there is a difference in some of those things. There is. It's kind of like, and it's usually the bad food, probably bad foods for you.
Well, like and you had a
fake Mountain Dew.
Fake Mountain Dew. I was just going to say
that. Like fake Oreo cookies.
Yeah, that's just not good.
Doritos, fake Doritos. It seems like all this good snack foods. You get the cheap one out. You're like,
my niece would call that generic.
Yeah. They put cable TV on here, beauty treatments, and a luxury gym membership. I put beauty treatments and a luxury gym membership in honor of Kelly Stevens, who's not here.
Yeah, luxury gym.
He spends a lot of money on that extra stuff. I'm like, Kelly Stevens, you can plank at home just as easily as you can plank at that fancy gym membership.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Talk to us about Elon Musk. Did it happen today or tomorrow?
It is actually tomorrow. So, I mean, this is a huge article, and you guys are welcome to read it. It's on the Verge, the news site, The Verge. I'll just give you a little bit here. It says, on the afternoon of May 27th, which is tomorrow at 3:30 Central Time, 4:30 Eastern, SpaceX is slated to launch its very first passengers to space, potentially heralding a new era of human spaceflight for the United States. It'll be the first time in nearly a decade that people have launched to orbit from American soil, and it'll be the first time that a private vehicle takes them there. Now, I won't read it much more of that, but they are getting escorted to the launch pad in a Tesla Model X.
Yeah.
Nice.
And that's, I believe I'm reading the same one, is that for the first time, a for-profit company will carry astronauts in the cosmos
Yeah.
to the space
So
station.
they're going to the space station, and they don't know how long they're going to be there. The what they call the Crew Dragon ship can only stay in space 4 months because of the solar panels. The sun will deteriorate them, so they have to bring them back, before 4 months is over. But there's no date scheduled to bring them back, and they're not really sure about tomorrow. They're hoping they can launch tomorrow, but the weather's 60% rain. So if they don't go tomorrow, they're going to go Saturday.
One time in Utah, I don't know, I remember this, occasionally in Utah, it was a large military Air Force base there south of where we lived at in Ogden. And I did get to experience one time a rocket test. Have you ever seen one of those
No.
in real life? As a rocket test. And it's basically the rocket was strapped down to the ground, if you will, but
Shake and everything.
but we went out there and there was
Yeah.
hundreds of cars out there.
Yeah.
And I think I still have the video of because it was far away and it took 3 seconds for the sound to get there. Does that make sense? It was
Yep.
Oh, nice.
and then 1, 2, 3, and then it hits you, and you can hear me and camera go,
Well, I heard that when they were testing the Saturn V rockets, you could hear and feel those engines 100 miles away. So I don't know how far you were from your Air Force base, but they up to 100 miles away back in the day when they were testing the Saturn
Nice.
V.
I would like to. I would like to be there when he launched. In the area where you could kind of see it and feel it and
Oh,
all that.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of cool.
yeah. I can remember as a kid, I had a uncle who was just airplane mechanic at airport, and I remember as a kid, I'm sure you couldn't do this now, but I remember one time he took us to the little utility road that was coming over the fence as plane landed.
Yeah.
And we sat there as they went overhead, pretty close.
That's
and
cool.
just the power of that, I can imagine jet,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
spaceship, all those kind of things. So, but anyway, Elon Musk determined to get us to Mars. What you guys think about that?
Well,
we
we'll
get
see.
there? Will we get there?
Yeah, I think they will. It's going to be kind of hard to live there since the oxygen content's not real good. But
Yeah, it's some logistical
I think
issues.
they've
Yeah.
got their mind made up.
Which I did want. We covered this on the show one time way back. We talked about terraforming.
Yeah.
Okay, so terraforming is basically the belief that they could change Mars to Earth. So what we would do is we would go there and we would heat up the climate. And it would take a century to do this, 100. But after 100 years, as we begin to melt ice, heat up the climate, things would begin to grow, blah blah blah, and it would essentially become Earth.
have they
It's called
discovered-
terraforming a planet.
Have they discovered water on Mars?
Yeah, actually they have.
Okay.
There's-
Yeah, they
There's
just need to
water.
melt it. It's frozen. So that's what they're saying.
if
They begin
there's-
to melt it. It releases these gases. It develops ozone layer, something like it.
Yeah.
Basically would be
Because if you
to
have
their
water, you
belief,
can have
become-
life. You can sustain life
Yeah.
if you have
Yeah.
water. So, well,
And you'd have to have
interesting.
vegetation because you'd have to have something to release the oxygen in the air, which would be your trees and grasses and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, interesting. Yeah.
Well,
I don't plan on moving there though.
No.
I think I'll stay.
Yeah.
all righty. Well, that's a little bit. We're going to do, I got some spiritual talk. You have some spiritual talk. Let's
Yeah.
cover both of them. Go ahead and hit that button there, Maestro. Thank our sponsor, and we'll talk spiritual talk.
Sounds good.
Hi, my name is Jeremiah Johnson. I am the host of Grace Point Daily and the Modern Christian Dads podcast. But most importantly, I have the coolest job of being the lead pastor of Grace Point Assembly in Carthage, Missouri. Our church is about helping people discover a relationship with Christ and your purpose in Him, connecting other followers of Christ together in relationship and living out the mission of God. Why don't you join us for a service next time you're in this area? For more information, service times, and our address, go to gracepointag.org. We hope to see you soon. Okay, so I think I found something, a show on YouTube that I'm going to be highly addicted to. It's called The Dark Side of the Ring. So it's all basically bad wrestling stories in terms of people that committed suicide, or some of these bad stories that's happened via pro wrestling in the last years and decades, etc. So anyway, I was driving around last night. I listened to a podcast. It's called Talk is Jericho. Chris Jericho has a podcast and he interviews people. And he was interviewing Martha Hart, who is Owen Hart's wife. So Owen Hart was Bret Hart's brother, youngest brother. He was the youngest of 12 wrestlers, and the Hart family. If you know anything about pro wrestling, you had the Hart Foundation. Bret Hart, Owen Hart, Jim the Anvil Neihart. You got all these guys connected with this Hart family. They're Canadian based, and they're kind of just, if you know anything about pro wrestling, they're a dynasty family in the pro wrestling game. Anyway, he was the youngest of 12 sons, and didn't really set out, in terms of what I listened to, he didn't set out to be a pro wrestler. He actually wanted to be a teacher and get his education and kind of stay away from that. But he did help his father's promotion was going through a hard time, and so he helped out. He became super popular. He was so naturally gifted in it. Some would say the best wrestler of all 12 brothers. He gets really popular. He goes to the WWF at the time, now the WWE, as the Blue Blazer. And so anyway, and then he ended up fighting as Owen Hart and wrestling his brother. But anyway, 21 years ago, this happened in Kansas City, Missouri.
Yeah.
I did not realize it was Kansas City, Missouri.
Yep.
But part of his gimmick was that he would come down from the rafters, kind of on a cable, and drop into the ring, aka Sting. It was actually kind of make fun of Sting at the time. I didn't realize that either. But anyway, one night, it was for a pay-per-view, that he was getting rigged up, and he wasn't rigged. You know, the argument, and his wife makes a very compelling case, is that he wasn't rigged up properly or was using equipment that shouldn't be used for that type of thing. So anyway, he fell somewhere between 90 and 100 feet from the top of the catwalk.
God, that's a long way.
And landed. They say his head hit the turnbuckle and just instantly killed him 21 years ago. And so obviously pro wrestling is fake, right? It's a work. But anyway, during that time, you know, in the live event, no one really knew what was happening, and it was just kind of chaotic in a sense, you know, because a lot of times it's like, are they hurt or not really hurt? And no one really knows. Well, he died instantly. They drag him out of the ring, and it was one of the earlier matches, and they went on and did the rest of the show. The event that night. So anyway, this is Dark Side of the Ring. What it's all covering is basically WWE's negligence in regards to that, how they kept going on with the show. Vince McMahon took a ton of heat for that you wouldn't stop a show after someone literally died. His blood was on the mat, so all the other wrestlers had to go into that ring and wrestle where his blood was poured out on the mat after he literally died. Anyway, they get into a lawsuit. She sues them later on. She eventually settles out of court. And so that's what that whole documentary was on, the Dark Side. It's all different one. Like the one was Chris Benoit, Chris Benoit that killed his family, his wife and kids. And so all the Dark Side episodes are covering some of these weird stories, and one of which was Owen Hart. So I was fascinated by it. I was never like a big Owen Hart fan, but I can remember him. And I can remember that whole story going down. I didn't realize it was in Kansas City, Missouri. But anyway, all that to say, I found it very fascinating. I listened to the podcast, then I went and watched the Dark Side documentary on YouTube. It's for free on YouTube, and it was just really very interesting. But it just got me all thinking of this Bible verse, James chapter 4, James chapter 4, verses 13 and 14, which I'll read out of the Amplified. It says, "Come now and pay attention to this. You who say today or tomorrow we will go to such and such a city and spend a year there and carry on our business and make a profit. Yet you do not know the least thing about what may happen in your life tomorrow. What is secure in your life? You are merely a vapor, like a puff of smoke or a wisp of steam from a cooking pot that is visible for a little while and then vanishes into thin air." So 34 years old when he died, has a wife, has 2 kids, young daughter, young son. His daughter kind of remembers him a little bit. The son does more because he was older. But man, life, just thinking about the whole concept that life is a vapor. It's here today, gone tomorrow. We're always making plans for the future, but we don't know what tomorrow will bring. We don't even know what the rest of the day is going to bring necessarily. And that whole concept. And I was like, well, it's kind of hard to... It's kind of hard to live like that, right? It's kind of hard to live every day. I might die today. I might die today. Okay, exactly. Well, I love you, wife. I love you, kids. You know, but really, we should take on a perspective that we don't know what life brings, and we should live moment to moment, not just in general, but with Christ, and constantly be saying, "Lord, if it's Your will today, I will do this. God, let me live out Your will."
Yeah, I would say it's about prioritizing things in your life. I mean, when you have the right perspective. There's an order that needs to come with that. So that's really good. Yeah.
And I like how the Amplified says, let me bring it back up here in front of my face. It says, "What is secure in your life?" ? You know, if I'd ask any of you today, what's the one secure thing that you have in your life right now?
Jesus.
That you can completely trust in. And we can never take that for granted as believers of Christ, or if you're listening today and you're not following Jesus right now. Jesus is the only secure thing that you could put your hope and trust in. And I'm so grateful for that, because, man, when you hear stories of like this Owen Hart story, you can tell some of those people that you're listening in the documentary are not saved, and the heartbreak and, oh, my dad's gone forever, and those kind of things. But we as modern Christian dads, we have a secure foundation. We know that we have security in Christ Jesus.
Yeah, and being a Christian takes the fear of death away. I mean, we don't go out there and look for it. You know, hey, I want to die, but we're not overly terrified of it, because for us it's a win-win. We, like Paul says, for me to die is gain, for me to live is Christ. Yeah. Either way, you're going from life to life. So the sting is gone.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I think at this point in my life, I'm grateful for every day that I have with my wife, my kids, my relationships with you guys, my relationships with people at church. I think, because when you, or at least for me, when you're in like your late teens, early 20s, you think you're invincible, right? You're indestructible, and man, somebody in their 40s is so old, and I mean, I'm never going to be like that. But now that I'm here, I'm like, man, I look at things totally different now. You know, it's about relationships that I have with people. And it's funny that you brought this up, because my wife and I were just talking about that today, about, you know, because we know one of us is going to die before the other, or however, or, you know, if the Lord tarries, and just processing all that. And then that's a journey that you're taking with Jesus by yourself. I mean, I'm not going with her. She's not going where we're going this alone. So, yeah, I mean, just putting everything in and having that priority, the right priorities.
Yeah, especially when you go out witnessing, you know, somebody's like, well, you know, like I see be 20 or something like that, and somebody said, well, the rapture. I was like, well, the rapture. So yeah, you want to be here for the rapture, but you might not be alive when the rapture happens.
That's right.
So today is the day you need to make that decision. Yeah. Tomorrow's not guaranteed.
Yep. That's right. Yeah. It's good.
So your life is a vapor. Think about that.
Yep.
Man, I hear a story like that. 34 years old, prime of his career.
Yeah.
Life is gone in an instant. I mean, seconds.
Yeah. Well, and also, I have another story that you and I were talking about before the show. This is a lead singer of a Christian rock band and the son of a pastor, announced on Instagram that he no longer believes in God. He says, I've been terrified to post this for a while, but it feels like it's time for me to be honest. John Steingard, the frontman of the band Hawk Nelson, wrote in the caption of a lengthy note on May 20th. This is after growing up in a Christian home, being a pastor's kid, playing and singing in a Christian band, and having the word Christian in front of most of the things in my life, I am now finding that I no longer believe in God. And I was thinking about this a little bit. You know, I think Christianity, for him, he was raised in it, and it just became something that he did. I mean, I don't know his whole story or anything, but you see this all the time. And I think you can turn Christianity into a huge work. It's just something that you do when you don't have a relationship with Jesus. Right. You know, it just becomes another part of your life, or a work in your life. And obviously that's what it was to this young man. So, and the article goes on to say, I mean, he's receiving a lot of support from other Christian artists. They're saying, hey, listen, we're here for you. We love you. If you need to talk, you know, let us know. So,
yeah. And this will sound a little bit judgmental, but okay. Back in the day when I was a youth pastor, I was at a festival with Hawk Nelson.
Really?
And they did a little Q&A for like youth pastors and leaders afterwards. Okay. And I remember going to that, and because their music at the time was not, I don't want to say Christian, but they're like when they're first, let's pack up and move to California. Yeah. She's got lots of friends out there. Yep. We'll never get bored because we can go boarding and let the sunshine take us there. That was like their most popular song. Yeah. It didn't have anything to do with like God or Jesus. And so they were kind of a fun poppy band.
Yeah.
And I remember asking a question like, well, what about like sharing Christ? And it was kind of like a little kind of waffled answer of like, well, you know, we get in conversations. I was more like, well, you know, because I've always been of the nature or the side of things. Like, if you're in something like that, that's your platform to preach the gospel.
That's right.
It's not like a platform to, well, you know, I mean, if after the show, if I'm like just happen to get in a conversation, then I'll talk about it.
We would be surprised if we knew how many Christian artists aren't really Christian.
Right.
Because I mean, there's a whole business side of that.
Right.
You know, and dealing with people we know that, there's a business side to Christian music and Christian performing. And so obviously that's, it sounds like Hawk Nelson was a band that just happened to play at Christian venues.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, how's that candy bar?
It's very good. It's, and it's the whole debate of, are you a Christian? Are you a Christian band, or are you a Christian in a band?
Yeah, right.
Right.
And I have a good friend who plays in a band full time, and we discuss that a lot, because I kind of agree. There might be Christians in like secular bands out there that aren't like totally overt, maybe, with their Christianity, and I guess maybe I'm somewhat okay with that, but I still don't know how if you're a radical follower of Christ,
That's right.
how you couldn't want to talk about him.
Right.
Yep.
Like how you like.
Yeah, that was it. Well, when I got saved, I was in a band, and I couldn't stay in that because my life was being changed. God was changing my life. The first thing he took away was drinking alcohol, and people started questioning, well, why aren't you drinking with the rest of us? I'm like, I didn't really know what to say. I've just gotten saved. I'm like, well, I just don't want to, and then it became obvious that I was going to church more, that I was losing interest in the band and the jobs and everything we were doing, and eventually just quit. But yeah, your life. If you're going to continue to walk with the Lord, there are things that you're just not going to be able to do.
Yeah.
And playing in that band for me was one thing I just couldn't do. It's almost like, I don't want to say you're double-minded, but you're speaking a double message. So
like listening to certain music. Before I got saved, man, I was listening to metal. The harder the rock, the better.
Yeah.
It was the more screaming.
Yeah.
I drove my mom nuts with the music I listened to.
Yeah.
And now when I got saved, when I got saved, I still had like Striper. I listened to Striper when I got saved.
Yeah.
My mom's like, oh, you don't know Striper, all that stuff. And then like after a few albums, they started getting more secular. They released one secular album, and then they had a song like a few years ago. It was like Blank Blank Evil. And it was God's Name in Vain. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no.
And I actually worked with a guy who was a self-proclaimed Christian, I guess. He went to church and everything, but he owned a bar. He owned a piano bar, and he played in the bands at the piano bar and everything. And I was a new Christian back then, and it just kind of confused me. I thought, how can I can't do that? Like I can't do that. Right. But how can this guy do that? He's selling alcohol. He's probably drinking alcohol. He's playing the secular music with these guys. It was a piano bar, so he had touring musicians that would come in and out, and that confused me. And I was just like, well, I just leave it up to the God to do that work there, not me.
Yeah.
But
truth. Truth and encounter have to go hand in hand.
That's right.
You have to have the truth, but you have to have the experience. Some people have one or the other, and that can be detrimental. If you just know truth and haven't encountered that, then it's just a form of religion.
That's
then
right.
some people that they come into church and get the encounter, but never apply the truth of the one they encountered to their life, and they can't get that straight either. It's the two mending themselves together.
Yeah. Or just going to church with something you always did, so that's just what you're going to continue to do. And that's my Sunday morning thing. That's what I do.
Right. Well, and isn't that what the Bible says? In the last days, people will be deceived.
Yep.
People will fall away from the truth. People will. So it's scary. Once again, it's scary. I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to make it to heaven sometimes, with the, I think I'm going to, but I'm just, when you read the Bible, it says only the elect will make it, and there'll be deception. And so you really have to guard yourself, watch yourself from truth and theology and preachers and what is the one thing that can solidify or center us is the truth of God's word.
That's right.
I would be labeled a Pentecostal, so that would fall under the umbrella of experience-based Christianity, or we'd be more experiential based than maybe other ones. And so we got to maintain the truth of God's word. Your wife and I were talking this morning in the office about how we're talking about the prophetic ministries, that like you have to be careful because a lot of people, depend on someone else. Here's where I land. I went to a church where I was getting a different prophetic word every other week. You know, one week I was going to be a movie star. One week I'm going to be a prophet to the Jews.
Yeah.
One week I'm going to be,
Yeah.
well, man, if I would have ran with all that, I'd be so confused right now.
Yeah.
But so my thing has always been, if I could just help you in some way hear the voice of God for yourself, you'll be much better off than depending on me or anyone else for a word from the Lord.
Right.
That's right. Because that's what a lot of people will chase after is just the prophetic word, what somebody's going to say about their lives. You know, what can I hear this week? What do you have for me? Get in the word. I mean, so anyway.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you for listening to the Modern Christian Dads. Pray for Kelly Stevens.
Yes.
We want him to get better.
Yes, we do.
We'll leave it at that. I was going to try and say something.
It's
funny,
almost not the same without him. Almost.
Yeah,
Yes,
we
it's
miss
not
you, Kelly Stevens. Thank you for listening to the Modern Christian Dads. We're dudes talking news, sports, and God, and we'll talk to you guys next time.
Modern Christian Dads, Season 2. We're about to explode. Just dudes talking news, sports, and God.